The UFC looks brutal, but sometimes the brutality goes beyond a knockout or a submission. Sometimes you hear a sound, a crack, a pop or a snap, and everyone in the arena suddenly goes silent. Because you just witnessed something that makes you look away, something that reminds you these fighters are putting their bodies on the line in ways most of us can't even imagine.
Will's hands high, last time he was out. Whoa, no!
So today, let's break down the worst injuries in UFC history. Anderson Silva's broken leg. UFC 168, 2013. Let's start with the one everyone remembers, the one that still gives people nightmares. Anderson Silva, arguably one of the greatest fighters of all time, was in his rematch against Chris Weidman. Silva had lost the first via knockout and people thought it was a fluke. First round, Silva throws a leg kick, a standard normal leg kick. But Weidman checks it and Anderson Silva's leg snaps in half. Not just breaks, snaps like a tree branch. His chin bent at a 90 degrees angle and Silva collapsed immediately, screaming in agony. The entire arena went quiet. Joe Rogan couldn't even form words.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Wow! That's about as obvious as it gets. And as I told you, John Danaher, oh my God!
Oh my goodness.
Uncle Dana would later call it,
It's crazy, you know, I've only seen that happen 2 times, once on the internet and once with Corey Hill.
Silva underwent emergency surgery to insert a titanium rod in his leg. He was out for over a year, and while he did eventually return to fights showing incredible heart, he was never the same. That injury essentially ended the reign of one of the greatest middleweights of all time, Chris Weidman's broken leg. Here is where it gets eerie. 7 years later, almost to the day, April 24, 2021, UFC 261. Chris Weidman, the same guy who checked Anderson Silva's kick, is fighting Uriah Hall. First exchange of the fight, Weidman throws a leg kick, Hall checks it, and Weidman's leg snaps exactly the same way. It was like watching a cursed replay. Fans were in shock. Uriah Hall was traumatized. He broke down crying afterwards, saying he didn't want to hurt anybody like this.
I got nothing bad to say about him, and I hope he recovers. And hey, whatever rank I am in the future, if he gets well, I owe him this fight, and I hope he can come back from it. You're still one of the best, Chris.
The MMA gods had come full circle. The man who ended Silva's reign with a checked leg kick had his career potentially ended in the same way. Weidman also got a titanium rod. He was out for over a year, and just like Silva, when he came back, he wasn't the same fighter. The Chris Weidman who once ruled the middleweight division was gone. Some injuries are brutal, but this felt like destiny, and not the good kind. Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 3. UFC 264, 2021. The trilogy fight everyone wanted. Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, 1 win each. This was supposed to settle it. At the end of round 1, Conor steps back awkwardly and his ankle just gives out. He collapses. The round ends. And while sitting there against the cage talking trash, you can see his foot is completely sideways. The doctor steps in. Fight's over. TKO because of the doctor's stoppage. But this wasn't a normal stoppage. Conor's ankle was shattered. Broken tibia, fibula. He needed surgery, a titanium plate, and months to years of recovery. What made it worse? Conor kept shouting at Dustin from the ground, saying,
I was boxing the bleeding head off him, kicking the bleeding leg off him. Usual side dive to close the distance. This is not over. If we had to take this outside with him, it's all outside. We don't give a Your wife is in me DMs, hey baby. Hit me back up, I'll chat to you later on. We'll be at the after party, the Win nightclub, baby.
while his leg was literally broken beneath him. Dana White summed up the madness perfectly.
Yeah, leave people's family and wives and, you know, all that stuff out of it. The family has nothing to do with it.
Conor eventually returned, but with a leg held together by metal. The old Conor, the one who knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds, is long gone. His injury marked the end of the Star Conor era and started the Cold Conor era. Tim Sylvia's broken arm. Let's rewind to 2004, UFC 48. Frank Mir versus Tim Sylvia for the heavyweight title. Early in the round, Mir gets Sylvia in an armbar. Sylvia, being the tough guy he is, refuses to tap. He's trying to fight it, trying to hold on. Then you hear it crack. Sylvia's arm snaps. Clean break. But here's the insane part. Sylvia doesn't realize it's broken at first. He keeps trying to fight. He's protesting to Herb Dean, saying, I'm fine, I'm fine. Herb had to stop him and literally tell him, dude, your arm is broken. Sylvia finally looked down, saw his forearm bend the wrong way, and reality started to set in. The look on his face said it all. Frank Mir became champion afterwards, and Mir even said,
I want to give the crowd what they want to see. If they want to see the guy get his arm ripped totally off, I'll rip it off.
Tim Sylvia needed surgery and months of recovery, but Herb Dean, on the other hand, became a legend for recognizing the break before Sylvia even did. Corey Hill's broken leg. December 2008, the Ultimate Fighter finale. This one is rough and it doesn't get talked about enough. Corey Hill versus Dale Hart. Corey Hill throws a leg kick, Hart checks it, and Hill's leg snaps. But worse than Silva or Weidman, his chin literally broke in multiple pieces. It looked like his leg had an extra joint. Doctors call this a spinal fracture. The fight was stopped immediately, and unlike Silva or Weidman, Hill would never even come close to being his old self. He tried to return a few years later, but the damage was done. His career was over. What makes this injury so haunting is how random it was. Hill wasn't even a big name. It was just a prelim fight on a random card. A freak accident that ended a young fighter career in an instant. Modestas Bukauskas oblique kicks. 2021. UFC Fight Night 187. Khalil Roundtree versus Modestas Bukauskas. Bukauskas was an undefeated prospect making noise in the light heavyweight division. This was supposed to be a test for both guys. Instead, it became another example of why oblique kicks are very controversial. You know, these kicks that John Jones made famous, the ones that stomped straight onto the knee. Yeah, Roundtree started throwing them at Bukauskas' leg multiple times. And then Bukauskas' knee just buckled. It hyperextended backwards in a way that knees should not bend. He collapsed, couldn't continue, the fight was over. But unlike a clean break that heals, this was ligament and structural damage. Bukauskas needed surgery. His career momentum completely stalled. He's fought since, but he's really never looked the same. Here's the debate though. Oblique kicks are designed to destroy the joint itself. They're not about accumulating damage. They're about ending your opponent's career right in this moment. Michael Bisping's eye injury. 2013. This one's heartbreaking and pretty much fits with the whole Tom Aspinall situation.
Guys, I just poked knuckle deep in the eyeball. What are you booing? What am I supposed to do about it? I didn't do poke. I can't see.
Michael Bisping is fighting Vitor Belfort in Brazil. Vitor was absolutely jacked and juiced to the f***ing max at this time. But let's not talk about TRT here. I'll do it in a future video. Anyways, Vitor lands a devastating head kick. Bisping goes down. The fight's stopped. It wasn't just a simple head kick knockout. Vitor's kick detached Bisping's retina. His eye was permanently damaged. Doctors told him he would never see properly out of it again. So what did Bisping do? He kept fighting for 3 more years. He hid the injury from the UFC. He passed the medicals by memorizing the eye charts before. So he basically fought with only one eye, something Tom Aspinall couldn't do, to be fair. And then in 2016, he knocked out Luke Rockhold and became the middleweight champion of the world. One of the greatest underdog stories in UFC history. And we didn't even know he was half blind at the time. Bisping finally retired in 2017. He admitted the eye injury afterwards and people were shocked. How did he fight at the highest level with just one eye? But when Uncle Dana found out the truth, even he said,
You know, he had that surgery and had that problem with his eye, and you would never know it. The guy, aside from popping his eyeball out of his head, you would never know that Michael Bisping has an issue.
The MMA world itself respects Bisping for what he's done. But how the f did the UFC not find out he had one eye? One eye. Robert Whittaker's teeth. October 2023, UFC 294. Robert Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev. First round, Khamzat gets Whittaker down and immediately starts working for a submission, as he does every single fight. time. He locks in a brutal face crank. Khamzat keeps cranking. The pressure on Whittaker's jaw is insane. You can see Whittaker's face distorting from the force. Finally, he taps. Fight's over, first round submission. But this wasn't a normal tap. Whittaker's jaw was broken. His teeth were shattered. What makes this injury brutal isn't just the visual, which I can't really show you, it's the recovery. Broken jaw, dental surgery, and months of healing. Just take a look at the x-rays. Whittaker eventually came back and looked great because he is Robert Whittaker. But the image of his teeth being sideways caved in is burned not only into my mind, but in UFC history. These moments remind us that MMA isn't just a sport, it's a test of how far the human body can be pushed, and sometimes it pushes back. Next time you watch a fight, remember, every punch, kick, and submission could be the one that changes everything. And remember, when you hear it crack, you probably need to look away.